My name's Bobby Shore. I'm a cinematographer from Canada. I was approached by the producer for Anne with an E to set up a meeting with the showrunner and the director, just because she had seen some of the work I'd done and we had met previously in person, and she just thought that I'd be a good fit kind of creatively with Nikki, the director, and Moira, the showrunner, and so she kind of set up the meeting, and I went in and wasn't expecting to get the job at all, and they ended up offering it to me on the spot, and it was pretty amazing experience, the whole shoot, and to kind of work with people that are working creatively at such a high level. It was a hard shoot. So we shot 5 days in Prince Edward Island and then 93 days in Toronto. But even though a lot of it was kind of written to be done on a soundstage, it was probably more like 70% location, 30% kind of stage work. And we started off shooting in the fall, which transitioned to full winter by the time we ended. And we were talking like remote locations. Every day we were driving an hour and a half to kind of get to the countryside. And it was, the cameras were really put through their paces. It was, humping gear through, mud and rain, which then turned to minus 30-degree weather, and it was snow kind of up to your waist, and trying to figure out a way to like move equipment around. And it was great because the cameras held up perfectly. There was never any issues with them at all. They never really got adversely affected by how harsh the conditions were that we were shooting in. We shot the show with the VariCam 35, which was great. It was 2 cameras for the run of the show, and then for bigger scenes, if there were stunt sequences, we'd bring in like a third or fourth body. What was great about using this camera on the show was how kind of versatile it was, because there was a really good mix of kind of, a bit more of a classical kind of approach visually. There was a lot of dolly work, a lot of techno crane work, but then we would kind of, break the camera down and kind of strip it down to like the bare essentials, and just run around and just do kind of crazy run and gun handheld stuff, which was amazing because I could literally just take the camera and, you can kind of separate the recording module off the back and put it in the backpack, and me and the AC would go off, and the director would just have a small monitor, and we would just leave as many people behind as possible so they wouldn't, just because that stuff just kind of gets in the way sometimes. And so it was really nice to be able to kind of break it down almost like a documentary style kind of build, and just go and shoot. And it was very, very liberating, and it was also, it was great because, flipping from one mode to the other never took longer than like 5 minutes, so. I didn't have too much prep time, and Netflix has a 4K capture mandate with their cameras, so I obviously wanted to test as many as possible, but I didn't have the time. So a DP friend of mine who was also shooting a period piece for Netflix, he just shot a bunch of tests and gave them to me, which were f/65, f/55, VariCam in the red, and the Alexa basically is just kind of like point of reference. And watching the tests, it was clear that the front runners were definitely the VariCam and the f/65, but the f/65 it's a huge camera. It just wasn't conducive to the style of shoot that we were going to be doing, because we had to be really nimble, and we had to be able to move the camera quickly and do a lot of handheld work. And so seeing the quality of the image that you could get from the VariCam, it kind of became clear that was the kind of the front runner and like the go-to for the show. And then we just tested a bunch of really old lenses from Panavision and kind of, picked the worst of the worst so that we could really kind of give the show kind of like a unique character in terms of the combination of the look of the lenses and the sensor and the lighting and all that. So. Yeah, so what's great about the cameras having the kind of the dual ISO, the 800 and the 5000, I think really provides a lot of, interesting opportunities, both creatively and I think also kind of logistically. There was a couple times where, we would be, on location doing day work, and, oftentimes you're trying to work really quickly, especially when you're fighting the light at the end. And I remember a couple circumstances where the director would be like, but we don't have enough light to shoot. And I'd be like, oh, no, it's cool, don't worry. And we just like flip it to 5,000. And she'd be like, wait, how come the monitor looks like that? And it's like dark over here. It was great. It was, it was the kind of thing that just kind of saved my ass a few times, which I think was really nice. Yeah, I thought the skin tones were great. I think what I find really interesting about all digital cameras is I find there's this inherent need to slap a Rec 709 color space on everything, and I find that most digital sensors you need to approach it with a little bit more nuance. And what I really liked about the VariCam was we were able to find a LUT that worked really well, that kind of, we're basically trying to emulate like old Fuji Eterna tungsten stock, because it's lower contrast, lower color saturation, and it has a bit of a softer kind of feel to it. So when we found the LUT that worked, it just, that in combination with the lenses and the sensor and the lighting and production design and the acting and everything, it all just kind of coalesced and made for something that looked and felt very right. One of the things that I was really, really impressed with was, we shot all of our night interiors with candlelight, so I was kind of expecting to want to use the 5000 for that. But I realized that what the sensor does really, really well is it handles low light with like a really kind of extremely nuanced image, even at 800. And so we were able to shoot entire scenes where we literally just lit the scenes with candles and used a fast lens. And then when we did supplement it with lighting, it was something that was so dim and barely would register on the face, but it was just enough to kind of catch the eyes, right? And I realized that I didn't actually really need to use the 5000 because I loved the way the image looked when it was underexposed. And if you would try to bring it up, it would still, like, you could bring it up and you would add texture to the black point, which I thought was really, really nice. So I think that was kind of it became a very, very good fit for all the night interior work that we were doing. One of the best things you can do as a DP is reference other DPs' work or paintings or photography. I mean, ultimately you just end up, I think, kind of stealing from the best people that influence you. So for me, a lot of the two main influences were Robbie Ryan's work on Andrea Arnold's Wuthering Heights, and actually the photography of Sally Mann, just because it captures like an essence, do you know what I mean? And so, I thought the kind of the beauty in Sally Mann's landscape work was a really good kind of point of departure for how we wanted to approach kind of the natural environment. And then the grittiness of Robbie Ryan's work in Wuthering Heights was, I thought, an interesting approach to capturing the proximity of this really imaginative character. On this project, it was I had a really big influence on the color grading, which was really nice. It was color time by my friend Jim Fleming at Technicolor, who I'd done a couple features with before, and he's the kind of person that he knows my sensibilities, and he also just has a really good eye. So he could have timed the thing without me, and it would have been basically 90% of what I would have wanted to do anyways. So to be able to have had the time to, like, I think we spent 7 days or 8 days color timing just the pilot, which was really great. And what was really, really nice about it was I was able to spend the first 4 days with him, just me and him. Then the producer and the showrunner came in, and the director, who had gone back to LA, was kind of looped in just through stills, and they were all pretty happy with it. I mean, which was great. I was expecting a ton of notes just because I kind of wanted to kind of push things down a little bit darker. I mean, not too dark, because it's still kind of a kid show, but keep it a little bit darker and naturalistic. And they were really, really receptive to it. And it was also having the director, having them kind of have the same visual approach in terms of wanting to keep things naturalistic helped a lot. So when the producer or showrunner would ask to bring things up, a lot of the time, both myself and the director could ask them to maybe bring it back down a little bit and keep it a little bit more naturalistic. So we did, the pilot, which was 90 minutes, I think we did 8 days, and then every other episode was 4 days. And Jim just kept on saying how there's not enough time, and he cares so much about his job that, he would, when he was scheduled to work on other things, he would just sneak in like an hour or two of work on this one, just because he really wanted it to be, as good as possible. Yeah, we had one LUT that we used, which was, like I said, when I first got the camera, I was trying to basically build my own LUT in Resolve to kind of create that image that was, again, replicating the old Fuji Eterna 400 tungsten stock. And it was, again, as as you get to learn a new camera, there's certain kind of like, certain kind of like nuances to it that you need to try to figure out. And I was having a really hard time, I could put a LUT on footage in Resolve and make it look good, but then if I put that LUT on the camera, it wouldn't look the same. And it had something to do with, I guess, kind of like I don't know the technical shit really around it, but I was having a hard time making it line up. And then a friend of mine who's a DIT in Toronto, he had, I think, he was working on XXX, and I think they were testing the VariCam, and he had just come up with a ton of LUTs for it to show the cinematographer. And he was just walking by, and he was just kind of noticing. I was pacing because I was like, we were starting shooting in like 3 days, and I was like, I can't make it look the way I want. I don't know what to do. And he just came up to me. We started chatting, and I was kind of explaining to him the situation I was in. And he just hands me a hard drive. He's like, oh yeah, I got a bunch of LUTs here. Let me know which one works, and just take it. And so we went through, and there was one that was perfect. It kept the highlights nice and kind of suppressed, and a bit of a lifted shadow point, so it was a bit more low contrast, and the roll off and the color was nice and naturalistic. And so that's basically, we used that one LUT for the entire show, which I thought works really well. It's kind of treat it like just using one film stock for everything. If you want to make changes, do it in lighting, do it in the lensing, do it in the light, the way you filter the camera, and it was great. I had operators, but I tend to really enjoy operating, especially the handheld stuff. So I basically did all the handheld work in the show, which was so much fun because there was a lot of like quick, fast-paced run and gun stuff where we're shooting close-ups with our main character on like a 35mm with the camera like right here. And I don't know. There's just like I think there's a really, really interesting kind of like energy transfer that happens between the actors and the operator, and then the operator and the director when you're just all on set. And what I really liked about using this camera, and what I really liked about using the LUT, was the last thing I want as a DP on set is to be off in a black tent, staring at an image and scrutinizing it and making sure it's perfect, because that's not your job. Your job is to be with the actors, and your job is to tell the story. And if you can work with cameras and lenses and people who kind of understand and can support that and can provide kind of like a workflow and an image where you don't need to sit there and scrutinize it and make sure that you're looking at a waveform the whole time, it just makes your job so much easier. And I think that working with this camera on this show kind of provided the framework for doing that. I would really like to use this camera again for the next show with Netflix. I think that it, I think like any new piece of equipment, it takes a little bit of time to kind of get comfortable with it. But after spending 6 months shooting with it every single day, it's like I feel very comfortable with it now. And it's like learning a new film stock. You test it, you put it through its paces, and then you learn how to use it best and how to use it best in each situation. So I would love to use this camera again.